see you until you do. They no really care, see they do you. Oh. So make you show them, baby. Oh yeah, show them the real you. Oh yeah, show them what you get. No, don't let them say what you not, I want you strong, oh. You can't bring no. You want more than 1,000 reasons why. You no need to perfect, baby. Cause nobody perfect, darling. No, there's nobody in the world will be like you. What do you do when you can't let go? What do you do when you just don't know how you feel? And you know, say nobody feel your pain. Can you cool out in it, everybody running, always not day by day with a struggle. For this world, you know you must do hustle. Just know that you're not alone. Already no need for you to the form Anthony Joshua. Oh. You see, it's okay to ask for help. People go find you, but them not define you. And you will find people who go help redesign you. People go find you, but them not define you. And you go find people who go help redesign you. See, you are a work of art. But you didn't think you come this far. Now here you are. I'm why you strong, oh. You get brain, no. See you want beyond 1,000 reasons why. I'm why you no need to perfect, baby. Cause nobody perfect, darling. No, there's nobody in the world will be like you.
All right. Hello, sorry about that hitch. Welcome to another edition of the Touch Excel show with Twin and the gang. I'm your host, Twin Adeshola, and this show is a production of Sickle Cell Advocacy and Management Initiative, where we educate, inform, and empower people on the issues regarding sickle cell, not just for people with sickle cell, but society at large. And today we'll be talking on a special topic, which we have a special guest, and I'll bring him on right now. Hello, Ade. Can you hear me?
Hey, Tony, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm fine. Great to have you on board. Yes. So before we start, I just want you to tell the audience a bit about yourself. I know you run online support group and some other things. So just tell the audience a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. A little bit about me. My name is Ade Dotun, Ade Yokunu. I go by Ade, or my Niger friends call me Dotun. So whichever one is convenient for you. I was born and raised in Nigeria. I moved to the States back in 97, and I grew up in Maryland. I studied computer science and IT for work. So I worked in tech consulting for almost 10 years. And then I made a career change, went back to school for my MBA full time at UT Austin in Texas. and then I made a career
Mm.
change to the healthcare space. So I currently do marketing and strategy for a pharmaceutical company in Pennsylvania. And I started sickcell.com, which was one of the first online community for people living with sickle cell when I was initially in grad school in 2009. Just because when I moved to school, I felt very alone, and there was no one else that was
Mm.
going through what I was going through, and I was just trying to find someone else to relate to, which was what led me to create this online community where I was able to meet a lot of people from all over the world that were relatable and were able to share some of our trials and triumphs together. And it's kind of just took off on its own since then.
Exactly.
Currently have about over 2,000 people globally before the advent of like Facebook groups and everything else like that. And I also run a Twitter account
Mhm.
with Sixcell as well.
And you know, when I saw the name, I just realized I'm a member. I don't know if I'm still a member, but I registered back in I think 2009 or 2010 with a Yahoo email. I was like, I know this this group, so it's very interesting
Yes,
that it's come around
yes,
now.
exactly. I
Yeah, then
saw
back
your
then,
name on there this week. You're still a member because it popped up that it was your birthday this week on there.
oh wow, yes, that's why I'm even
Yeah.
late. So guys, sorry for coming on late. We had a sort of a birthday thing. So
Oh,
yeah,
happy birthday,
it's
by the
great to
way.
have you. So this month is basically thank you. This month is basically sickle cell awareness month. What do you think about it, and do you think it has made any impact, if any, since it started?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's a wonderful initiative, and I think it's made a lot of impact since it started. Um, if not just because of raising awareness alone, I think that alone is a big enough impact because when it's September, a lot of people start posting about sickle cell, and a lot of people that never heard of it get a chance to actually learn and educate themselves and find out what sickle cell is all about. So I think if for
Yeah,
nothing else, just for the fact of raising awareness and education in September, and also we're raising funds for a lot of these organizations. September is one of the biggest months to raise funds for sickle cell disease. So I think it's a great initiative, and it should be something that we keep doing every year.
exactly. There's been a lot of efforts to try and create awareness, but sometimes I feel is not enough, especially from this point of where we are, Nigeria.
Mm,
We tend to focus because of funding and other issues, technical issues. We tend to focus on the urban areas and trying to get
mm,
into the rural areas and translate the message so that people can understand. Because the perception now is still that same. Oh, it's
stigma.
Abiku. Exactly.
Mm,
You know, um,
yeah.
it has
In
not
this
really, yeah.
in this day and age, it's so sad, to see the amount of stigma that's still happening in Nigeria, and particularly in just African countries in general. I think it was just last year, a couple of years ago, I was reading an article in Reuters that Cameroon was actually killing babies that were born with sickle cell because they were still under the
Wow.
impression that it was witchcraft. And like in this day and age of information and technology, that ignorance is still bliss, and it's there's still a
Mm.
lot of work to be done, like you said. Absolutely.
So, in terms of creating awareness, I always say he who the shoe pinches knows where it
Mm.
hurts most. And I
Yeah,
remember, I remember
explain that one for us lay people, please.
okay, means he who the shoe pinches or he who the shoe hurts. That means by the person that really is affected by
Hmm.
the issue at hand is the person who really knows the challenges of that problem. You know,
Exactly.
and in the same
It
vein,
would,
that's
yeah.
the person that can really talk about it to people. But
Mm.
because of the stigma, we find that a lot of people don't want to talk about it. I remember when HIV was an issue in Nigeria, there was so much stigma and all that.
Mm.
And then people with HIV started coming out, educating
Mm.
people about sickle cell. In fact, I remember there was a lady who was like the face of HIV in this country. She used to be on
Oh
everything,
wow.
educating people about HIV. But I
Right.
don't see that so much here
Mm,
with sickle cell. I mean, it's improving, but
yeah.
when I always say that other people cannot tell our own stories. They can tell it to a
Mm,
degree, but
yeah.
um, it's not the same as us telling our stories. So how do we? I mean, you growing up, I know you went left early to US, but in
Mm.
transiting to be able to talk about sickle cell, was it easy for you, or you had to just create a mental effort to do so?
Yeah, it definitely was not easy at all. I think for most of us that grew up in a Nigerian home,
Mm,
it's heavily stigmatized, especially when you grow up in a religious home on top of it.
mm,
Everything is like, oh, God has healed you. You should not be talking about this. It's very
yeah.
taboo. They try to hide it from people. And that's the mentality a lot of people grow up under, which makes it hard for them to break free
Mm,
from it, to unlearn how they've been conditioned to hide their situations from people. Um,
mm,
so it took a lot, and, like you said, it's a mental thing for you to break out of that and realize that by talking about this to other people is the only way that we're going to be able to reduce the amount of stigma and actually normalize this, that this is not
mhm,
a taboo thing. Like, it's okay. There's a lot of strength in the vulnerability that comes with it, right? So I think that for me, it definitely took a lot of effort to be able to say no. What I'm doing is helping a lot of people, and I didn't realize that. Just being able to share my story, like I was saying on the
mhm.
website, I kind of took it for granted because my little sister also has sickle cell. So
Okay.
I knew someone with it growing up, and the loneliness aspect of it didn't really hit me until I went away to school and I was on my own, right? But then I
Yeah.
met people that were telling me, people in their 20s and 30s, that they've never met anyone else with sickle cell. And these are
Mm,
people like in different countries, right? So just for them to meet someone else that was going through the same thing was so encouraging to them. And the kind of messages that I received, like, oh, thank you for making this, thank you for speaking up about this, it's giving other people confidence. So I think
mm,
all it takes is that one person to be able to bring everybody else along and inspire confidence for them to be able to talk about it too. And I think that's why a lot of the initiatives that you're doing, you're kind of like the face of sickle cell in Nigeria to me. So I think it's amazing.
thank you. Thank you. So when you started did you aim to achieve any specific thing, or did you just say, okay, let me just start something and see where it goes?
Yeah, it was more so, let me just start something. I didn't have anything specifically in mind. I just
Mm,
wanted to connect with some other people and be able to reach out and raise awareness to other people that don't know what it is as well. And then it just kind of took on a life of its own. Through that, I've been able to work with companies like Wego Health, and a lot of just other pharmaceutical
okay.
companies to help raise awareness, being an ambassador
Mhm,
for programs. So I didn't have an end goal in mind per se.
mhm.
I was just like, let's see where it goes, and as long as I can help people
Mhm.
and part of the journey, as well as helping myself too, because there's a lot of times where we get stuck. I call it advocacy fatigue, right? So sometimes you need someone else to bring you along and keep you going too. So it takes a
Yeah,
village.
exactly. And how has the impact of the community? Have you faced any? Do you see any common challenges that the people in your community have? Because I know everybody has some form of challenge, but are there any common ones that you see among people with sickle cell?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I think one of the common ones is what you touched on, is getting through that fear of actually being able to speak up about it and speak up for
Mm,
yourself and advocate for yourself and educate other people about it. That's one of the biggest things. So when people see that, oh, other people are actually discussing this freely, it gives them the confidence to be able to do it as well. When it comes to men, particularly, it's something that I've seen. There's this thing that
my
men
God.
shouldn't exactly should hide their emotions, and you have to be tough, you can't be
Mhm.
emotional, you can't, so being able to say that, no, it's okay as a man to show your emotions and talk about your vulnerabilities, and and talk about the mental aspects of sickle cell as well, is something that's often ignored. But I'm
Yeah.
seeing that trend um, come up a lot more now, so where people are making it okay to talk about mental health issues that comes with having chronic illnesses.
So has there been any success story that you can say, wow, I did this and it's impacted this person in this way?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many like anecdotal messages that I've received of like, hey,
Mm,
thank you so much for making this post. I was really down and depressed, but seeing this is giving me a little bit of energy to keep going. It's giving me a little bit of
mhm.
faith to keep going, to see that, oh, wow, a lot of people reached out to me that you actually were able to go to school and get 3 degrees. I thought I could never do that, like high schoolers.
Mm,
So
yeah,
it motivated them and encouraged them to not give up on their dreams, to actually want to go to college as well. And I tell them like it's not going to be an easy journey for sure. You know, it's going to be tough, but they've seen someone else that's been through it, so that inspires them to be able to go through it themselves. I think that was
yeah.
the most meaningful aspect of it to me, just like inspiring people to chase their dreams and not give up on it just because they have sickle cell.
Exactly. So we're going back to this series is called Finding Your Voice. And
Mm.
one of the you mentioned stigma among every other things. Now I'm going to a point of view. How was it growing up when with your parents? When did they find out early that you had sickle cell? And how did they help you to understand your disorder?
Yeah, well, I found out relatively early because I have
Mm,
SS. So I had, a crisis at a really young age. Maybe I was like 2 or 3, my initial
mm,
first crisis. So they didn't really know that much about it. Growing up in Nigeria back then, late 80s, there wasn't a lot of information, especially with my parents. They didn't know as much as I feel like they should have at the time. There was still a
yeah.
lot of ignorance, and a lot of that goes back to what we were discussing about the taboo of
Mm,
it, right? So it wasn't
mm,
until I was in maybe middle school or high school where I was able to take my health into my own hands and educate myself and learn about what sickle cell is and how it affects me, and being able to manage it better comes with that. And it,
mm,
it was on me actually to educate my parents about a lot of the nuances about it, because we were just so brought up of like, oh, you'll be fine, God will heal you, it's okay. It's not really talked about and discussed. So I think a lot of work needs to be done, especially in African countries, to educate some of those older generational people about it.
exactly. And when you talked about especially religion, I remember I had the pastor who used to say there's thin line between faith and stupidity. Um,
And God helps those who help themselves.
well, I don't even. My own is that I always
Mhm.
feel that sometimes we think okay, yes, there's no harm in having faith because I'm somebody who has enormous faith, but I
Right.
also know that I have to do certain things to help myself to be able to build that faith.
Yeah.
Like the example was given that okay, your eyes is not you can't see well, so you take a
Mm.
prescription, you need a prescription, but you're now saying that oh, I have faith in you, and then you refuse to wear the prescription glasses, and then you'll be walking blindly. But
Can you imagine?
once you put it on, it doesn't mean that you don't have faith. The minute you know that you are healed, your eyes is healed, is the minute you know that the glasses is not relevant to you again. And then you can take it off and do it. But in
Exactly.
the meantime, you have to be able to wear what
Do
is
what's
given
best
to
for your
you and
health.
just believe. Sometimes God takes you a journey. I remember when I was young, people were like, no, don't say you don't have sickle cell. I said, it doesn't mean
Mm.
that saying it doesn't mean I don't
Mm.
believe that I'll be healed of it. But saying it means I have it at this moment, and
Mm.
through God, I'm managing it to the best of my ability. And I think that is where,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
I
how do
agree.
you think we can marry that, especially with parents? Because you have
Mm.
parents who have information, and it's not necessarily them. You have parents who have information from a different information. No, it's done this way. You will boil this, you will do that. So how do we manage? How do we
Yeah, I mean
manage?
that's a tough question. I think it's a case by case basis. So
Mm,
at the end of the day, I always tell people you have to do what is best for you and your health. You cannot let someone else tell you what's best for your health because they don't know what you're
mm,
going through.
yeah.
Everybody will come and say, "Oh, have you tried this? Have you done this? Have you done that?" And a lot of times the intention is good. They're not, the intention is good. They're not trying to harm you or anything like that. It just comes across the wrong way. So at the end
Mm,
of the day, I think it's up to us to know the difference between when
exactly.
someone is trying to be helpful versus they're just ignorant and need to be educated.
Yeah.
about the subject. So it's tough. It's a balancing act, like you said, because I'm a man of faith as well, and I know that a lot of things that I've been able to do and still doing is by the
Mhm.
only by the grace of God. You know, there's
Exactly.
no secrets, there's no magic, there's nothing. It's all the grace of God that's been able to get me here. So I don't discount that at all.
Yeah, exactly. So we're talking about building confidence. I know a number of people, background they come from or what people have told them, they tend to develop low esteem, so they cannot speak up for
Mm,
themselves. How has it been for you in your journey, especially in your workplace? You do so many things. How has
mm,
it been trying to build confidence enough to, like, if your boss or somebody says this, you now have confidence to open your mouth and explain this is the situation.
mm. It's a journey, like you said. I think it's something that I'm constantly working on. Um, Confidence is something that I don't feel like I'm like the height of the confidence that I need to be. So it's something that I'm consciously working on every day, to be able to be more confident and to be able to speak up for myself. So for me, it's been several factors that's been helpful. Um, I think one is just like my educational background, um, and and
Mm,
and even before that, I think being the oldest. So I have three siblings. So being the oldest, as I've always kind of like had to advocate for my little sister, especially. So I think that's given me a little bit of confidence in that space. And then when I went away to school, I went to a mostly predominantly white school, where there weren't a lot of other black kids. So I had to develop some confidence to be able to speak up for myself in that space and advocate for
mm,
myself in that space. So I think over time, going to multiple schools and institutions, and then always trying to learn and better myself as well, right? So the more I learn, the more confidence I have, to be able to speak up about the topic and just in general. So I would say reading is like a big thing that I do. I read a lot, of books, and particularly nonfiction, to help to be able to boost my confidence
yeah.
and looking for ways
Oh,
that
interesting.
push
Because
me.
funny enough, that's what. Yeah,
Sorry, you
that's
cut
really
off.
what helped me a lot. Reading.
Oh yes,
Okay, yeah, my network is a bit bad here.
I can hear you now. I can hear
It's
you
something
now.
we have to manage. Okay, okay, great. Yeah, I was saying that when you're talking about reading, I
Mm,
would say that for myself because for periods of my life, I was bedridden for
mm,
months, even longer than that.
mm.
Over 6 months, 8 months, and reading helped me
Uh,
understand a lot and help me build my confidence along the way. So
that's awesome.
in trying to be positive and be building your confidence, what would you say simple steps that people can take to be able to, like, okay, when I'm in this situation, I must
Mm,
do this. When I'm in this situation, I must do that.
mm. I think that being prepared goes a long way, right?
Mm,
So I think part of that preparedness is what actually gives you the ability to be confident when those situations come up. So a lot of it is happens before, an actual event occurs. So just
mm,
preparing yourself by reading, that's, like you said, a fundamental one. Um, I consider myself kind of like an introvert in a way when I first meet people. So speaking up could be even harder for me a lot of times before I started, doing a lot more patient advocacy work in public speaking. So I watch a lot of like videos on public speaking, and join in programs like Toastmasters is something in America
yeah.
that helps with public speaking. I think it's international actually. It's
Yes,
a
we have
global.
them over
Yeah,
here.
so I suggest that for people. And then there are a few books. One is called The Introvert's Advantage. Is a really good book on just building confidence. And then the other one is called The Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck, and it talks about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, and being able to be open minded. And I think that's helped instill a lot of confidence in me as well.
Yeah,
And just don't. It's hard to just say, oh, don't be afraid. But a lot of times that's what it comes down to, is like we let our fear hold us back, and a lot of
exactly.
times it's an irrational fear that we have. And we notice that when you actually do speak up, people actually are open most times to like learn and listen. Not all the time, but at least most times.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever encountered, because I know you were saying that you are in a predominantly white school, and then even transiting to college, university, have you ever encountered a situation where you're trying to explain to people this is the issue and they don't seem to understand? What have you done?
Oh yeah, so many times, because people always want to act like they can relate, or they compare it to maybe something else that they've been through or someone that they know, you know. But I tell them, even if it's someone else that has sickle cell, it's such an individualized
Yes.
experience. Everybody's experience is different. So in those situations, it depends on the person. I can choose not to engage if I feel like this person is not ready to listen to anything I have to say, you know. So if I
Mm,
feel like, oh, this is just going to be a waste of my time, I choose not to engage it. And then it depends. I might send them some material that I feel like might be helpful.
mm,
So if I'm in a place where I feel like, okay, I'm not confident enough to be able to convey this message properly, I might send them a video or an article or something that I feel like might be able to convey that message better, and then have a
yeah.
follow-up conversation with them after that. And sometimes that helps a lot too.
Okay, so this I'm going to pivot to another question. Yeah, you sort of semi-experienced both worlds. Compared to your experience in Nigeria and where you
Mhm.
are in US, what
Mhm.
has been the worldview? Do you think both places awareness is not there, or do you think one
Mhm.
has improved better than the other?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think still often visit Nigeria every once in a while, maybe every 2 or 3 years.
Mm,
And last time I went home, I actually got sick, and it was during New Year's of 2019. I
oh,
ended up spending New Year's in a hospital in Nigeria. That was not a
mm,
pleasant experience at all. Um, so I got to see some of the differences, right, of how people are treated. For the most part, there's a common thread where the stigma in the ER is constant
that's
between
right.
the US and Nigeria. So that was something that was constant that I saw. It's like that stigma of, oh, drug seeking, and yo, are you
Mm-hmm.
really in this much pain? So when I was in Nigeria, I told them morphine doesn't work for me, but they ended up still trying to give me morphine, and increasing the dosage, and it didn't do anything for me until they realized that and was like, okay, let's try to find something else that might work better for you. So there's still a lot of those similarities where it's like,
Mm,
oh, we're gonna do what we want to do anyway. It doesn't matter what you have to say about it.
yeah.
But to some level, I do feel like we're making progress in both countries and globally. But I want to say that maybe there's been a little bit more progress within the states, but I might be biased just because that's what I see.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's relative. Definitely there are challenges in this country with the healthcare system. So it's relative to US where they have more skills, more doctors and everything that we see. So I want to talk about advocacy now. One of the challenges in this country is that we've not seen a push,
Hey,
an advocacy
yeah, breaking
push
up.
towards changing. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me now? God bless our network.
Abio, you guys
Is
are
that
trying.
better?
It's better. It's better.
Okay. So I was saying that in terms of we've not really seen more of a push for advocacy, whether it's here, whether it's in US. It's still breaking up.
In and out.
Am
In
I
and
still
out.
breaking up? Okay. Let me see if I can switch. I hope it doesn't cut off. I can try and switch. Just a second.
Okay, it's better now. I
Yeah.
can hear you.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, no
Okay.
problem. No, yeah.
Okay, you can hear me now. Yeah, it's one of the challenges. I'm good. Am
Yes,
I
I
good for
know.
it? So I know I can
Yeah,
change.
good. Let's try. Let's try to keep going and see if I can hear your question.
Okay. All right. So I was saying that advocacy has not been something that has been pushed. Maybe in the last 5 years, it is being recognized more. What do
Mm,
you think are the challenges in advocacy? I mean, advocacy not just for people with sickle cell, but even in
mm,
terms of okay, knowing your genotype and all that. What do you think can be done, especially in terms of educating people more, and then also defending with sickle cell? I don't know if you've heard that there's this bill that is up in Nigeria, and their own method. I can understand their challenge of trying to reduce the impact of sickle cell in the country. But their own is that okay, if a some couple is going to marry, they go to hospital. From the
mm,
hospital, they're taken to know their genotype. Then
mm,
they're told their genotype, they're likely to have children with sickle cell. They would advise them not to marry, and if they insist,
mm.
they would sign like an indemnity that the government would not be responsible for the health of the child.
Wow.
Now, that I find a bit extreme, but I do understand the challenges they're trying to overcome. But I
Mm,
thought it was like, oh, do this, it's not simple because there are several factors in place. And one is how many people have we really reached out there? When you talk
mm,
about education about sickle cell, how many people have how many even go to hospitals? I run a clinic and I know a lot of my patients,
mm,
although sorry, don't want to go to hospital. They
mm,
don't. They rather call the neighbor who knows how to give injection or something. So,
mm.
how do you think we can push more advocacy in the country as a nation and then as people, especially with
Korean culture. Ah,
oh
Lion
sorry,
culture.
I said how do you think we can push more? Are you hearing me? Let
Yes,
me
yes,
switch on my network is really bad. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Let me try. Yeah. Are we good?
Yes, we're good. We're good.
I had to change over.
No, no
Okay, so I
P,
was
no
like
P.
saying, how do you think how do you think we can push for more advocacy uh,
Yeah,
as the nation, individuals, especially those living with sickle cell?
yeah, it's very tough. I heard about that bill. Tosin Ola, sickle cell warrior, actually reached out to me. We were trying to,
Okay,
figure it out. I think it was like Anambra or something, somewhere like that, that they were trying to push that. Um,
okay, no, this one is now the national one.
oh, okay. Wow.
All about
I didn't even know it was on a
it,
national
yes.
level. So has
Yeah,
it
there was
been
the
passed
Anambra.
already?
No, it's a second reading.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
there was the Anambra one that was different. Then I think another lot of people the same. I don't know what they came up
Yeah,
with the one for the nation, as it were,
yeah,
and before Senate, and that's the one that
yeah.
you know.
I I mean, I again, it's one of those things where, like you said, I understand the intent behind it. I just don't
Mm,
think that implementation or the execution is being done properly or the right way. I think it's a slippery slope when the government um, is allowed to start dictating who you can marry and who you can't. I don't think
mm,
that's the government's place to do that. I think
mm,
as adults, you are responsible for your own actions that you take. It's up to you to do the due diligence to be able to say, okay, I know what I'm signing up for, um, regardless of this or that. And as so it all goes back to that educational piece, right? So
mm,
educating people enough that they have the right knowledge to be able to make the decisions for themselves. Because I've seen this and experienced this personally as well. But how do we go about doing that is the question that you pose, and I think it's very tough. I think one big thing that's worked very well here, uh, since like maybe a few years ago, where it's national now. It started with just a few states, is implementing new birth screening. So I'm not sure if that's nationally available in
Yeah,
Nigeria now. Is newborn
no,
screening?
no, it's not. I know a state in is it Delta, has just started or is just starting a newborn screening
Mm,
facility, but we don't have any newborn screening policy here in Nigeria as such. If
yeah,
you want to do newborn screening, probably have to go to one of the more private, expensive diagnostic places. And how many people can afford that? So they won't
exactly,
deliberately go and do newborn screening, whereas newborn screening is supposed to be automatically done for every child
exactly. I think that is a big,
in
massive
this country.
step that will help, because
Yeah.
the other part of that is not just like it's the ignorance that people don't know their status, they don't know their trait, they
Mm,
don't know what
mm,
their blood type is, and when you're just jumping into something blindly, and you're finding out a week or a few months before you're getting married to someone, it's
mm,
too late. So
yeah.
finding ways to help to democratize the process of getting tested, and it's tough and it's going to be very expensive, which goes back to what we're talking about with like funding and
Mm,
being able to support some of these like basic infrastructure initiatives that needs to be in place. And I know there's a lot of effort with like being able to test um, um, your blood type through your phone. There's a lot of new cutting edge technology that's happening now. It's just being able to scale it to where it's readily available and cheap enough
yeah,
so people can actually afford it.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've almost let me ask a couple of questions before I ask if anybody, if you have any questions, please, for those of us watching, please post in the group and I'll read it out. What would you want the world to do better for the sickle cell community? I'm not saying we're asking for handout or anything, but what would you want the world to do better?
Man, I think that just having a little bit more empathy
Mm,
for people, and this is beyond just sickle cell, but specifically with sickle cell, because you can never understand what it's like if you haven't been through it yourself, you know?
yeah.
So having a little bit more empathy would remove a lot of the issues that we've discussed today. The stigma, a lot of it is because of lack of empathy, you know? So learning to be a little bit more empathetic towards one another will go a long way.
Yeah.
Being open-minded, not being closed-minded to something that you've been taught that might have been wrong, and being open-minded to receiving new information would allow us to be more empathetic towards one another and just be kind, especially now during this COVID times. Everybody's
Hmm.
going through one thing or the other, and just taking a step back and saying, "Wow, I didn't know this." A lot of people just don't know. So being
Yeah.
open minded to be able to receive that information and say, oh, okay, wow, I'm sorry, that you're going through this, and just showing a little bit of empathy goes a long way. And taking initiative to educate yourself on matters that you don't know about instead of speaking on it from something that you heard from somebody else that was saying something that was incorrect as well. So there's no reason for people to be ignorant in this day and age. We have our cell phones, and everything is on Google. So, if there's something that you don't know about, research it and be able to have a educated conversation about it.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're talking about empathy, but I notice people say, "Oh no, I have," but I notice that sometimes it's more of sympathy,
Mm,
sympathy, because people always sometimes relate. Sometimes they relate the two together, but there's a wide.
mm,
So, what would you advise somebody to do? And maybe if you break down the difference for somebody to be able to
mm.
understand, because I remember growing up, I had a lot of quote unquote sympathy, which was more self
Pity.
exactly, which was
Mm,
hey Ekwele, sorry for those of us don't understand Yoruba. Hey, yeah, you're here again. Hey,
yeah,
it was a lot of
yeah.
that. So how would you,
Mm,
when you're find empathy, how would you break it away from people who
pity.
most like more of sympathy and pity?
Yeah, I think I think, like you said, as warriors, that's one thing that most of us don't like at all is pity, right? Like we don't. I don't want anybody to come and pity me for anything, because so it's like just being able to. I'm trying to find a good way to break down the difference, because even me is something that I struggle with, and I live with
Mm,
this with other people too. So it's not something that comes easily. When, for example,
yeah.
my sister is going through a lot of pain, or feeling down because she's been in and out of the hospital or whatever it is saying just have a listening ear. Sometimes is all it takes to be sympathetic to someone. You don't have to know the answers. You don't have to say, "Oh, okay, Jesus will heal you," or "You'll be okay," or "Be strong," or one of any of those things. It's just being there to listen and be
Mm,
receptive. Sometimes is all it takes. So
yeah.
starting there. Don't feel like you have to provide an answer or fix to the problem, but just having an ear to listen to you vent sometimes can go a long way.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. It's been nice having you on the show. Our time is fast spent. I know we started late. Sorry, guys. But definitely we'll have you along the way back again to talk to us. It's been an interesting conversation, and I'm sure for those of you who have been watching this past few minutes, you've been able to gain something about it. So any last word to warriors, final word to warriors,
Mm.
to encourage them, to give them the push to be able to be their best.
Yeah, I want to say, warriors out there, I know it's not easy. There are times that gets really, really tough to keep pushing through, and you have to dig very deep sometimes to find a reason to just hold on, because you're in and out of pain so much. And I think half of the battle, a lot of times, is what you touched on earlier. It's a mental thing. It's about the mentality of some people might call it the warrior mentality, or Mamba mentality, for the Kobe
Hmm.
Bryant fans. And it's about
Yeah.
having that drive and that tenacity and that persistence to keep pushing. A lot of times, I've been through it where it feels like, man, I don't have it in me anymore to keep going. um, but finding it could be something as trivial as going for a walk. I recently started riding my bike because that's one of the few exercises that I can do, because I
Yeah.
recently had hip surgery because of AVN, and
Yeah.
that's been bringing me joy. It's just going for a bike ride. It could be taking care of your plants. It could be taking care of a pet. Just anything, drawing, music that brings you a little bit of joy each day. Try to find
Mm,
something to do that to keep you going, and stay the course. We're called warriors for a reason, because we're strong, and it's
mhm,
okay to show vulnerability, and you don't always have to feel like you have to put on this strong front. It's okay to be weak for a while and say, man, this is a lot for me to deal with. Try to find someone that's empathetic and sympathetic, that can give you a listening ear when you're going through
mm,
those times, just so you don't feel like you're alone. There are a lot of communities out there now. Mine one being one of them. Twitter, so many communities on Facebook. Try to
yeah.
find someone that can connect with you, to relate with you, on what you're going through, to reassure that you're not alone.
Exactly. So thank you so much once again. It's been great having you,
Thanks for
and
having
we
me.
hope to have you connect with us once again.
Thank
All
you
right,
for having me. I appreciate it.
great. So this has been a production of Sickle Cell Advocacy and Management Initiative, SAMI, and it is supported by the Public Affairs section of the U.S. Consulate. You can listen to us at this time, 7:30 on Wednesdays and Saturdays throughout the month of September. After that, we continue with Wednesdays alone. And then if you are in Nigeria, you can also listen to the radio version where we banter on serious advocacy issues. And
Mm.
last week we were talking about offside, the love and hate of um, relationships, doctors, and all that stuff. And
I have to
also
go
the
check that out. That sounds very interesting.
yes, exactly. And the next one we're going to be talking about a more dramatic issue. Just watch us, focus on follow us on our Facebook page, Sami Update, and Twitter and Instagram, and you get all the informations you need to be able to get informed on that. And as I say, it's not what you have. By a friend of mine, it's not what you have that limits you. It's what you have and don't know how to use it that limits you.
Mm.
So have a lovely, 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 and I carry that quote to Steve Harris, my friend, who's always saying that quote, and I've held on to it. So have a lovely
That's a
day.
that's a good
Don't
one.
be by your circumstances. Hey,
Mm.
I use a wheelchair to move around, but I've not been
Mm.
limited. So find
Mm.
a way to work around your situation, and the sky, the heavens, everything is not the limit, but you can go beyond.
Yes.
All things are
Yes.
possible. Have a lovely day, everybody. God bless.
Amen.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you, everyone. We hope to see you next time. Have a lovely day. Yes.